extraction. So text mining also takes like inspiration from data mining, because here data can be anything. Data can be images, data can be words, data can be videos, it can be even just period or one single character. So data can be defined in a multiple ways. But text mining, even the phrase, you can see text is there. So which means we will use tools and technologies to study only text. So if it is like image, then image mining, visual mining, like there are other methods are coming out for other objects of study. So text mining also like in a way we count words and phrases either from a single text or larger scale of hormones or larger scale of text, but the text would be in a machine readable format. Right? What is machine readable format? uh, it is something like machine can understand. For example, if you are asking, if you are putting an image in your Word document and you want to extract the words, like for example, just okay, let's say you want to select the words from the image file, that the file you attached in the Word document. You might not sometimes just select the words or copy paste the words from the image file, right? So which means the Word document could not understand words that are embedded on the image files, right? So whatever the file you will be using, the machine should able to read the text from that file. So which means that makes machine readable text. So then we will also you might come across NLP if you go to computer science or data mining labs. They often use this word NLP process. So I'll explain a bit more about it. So we use statistical formation NLP to find out the significant meaning and pattern from the text we will be studying. Okay, before moving to more detail about text mining, how we were doing research before this text mining came into humanities in general or into the English department. We were using mostly qualitative study. What is qualitative study? You select one or two text and then you just sit and closely read the text based on the research questions you prepared or some sort of findings that you are looking for. So how we usually study the text? So we also look for words, ideas, symbols, any form of pattern, so that you will connect the words. Let's say if you are looking at the words related to imageries like flowers, how flowers are compared to characters, right? You will be selecting the particular word throughout the books, throughout the entire text material, right? So in a way we are also tracing some sort of pattern even in the qualitative study. And then we use that pattern to discover some relationship, maybe what exactly it means in the first page, the imagery, maybe what it, the meaning, whether it's got changed or not at the end of the page, right? So you'll be tracing the information. Also, you'll be associating just outside the text. Not only you study the material, just the words inside the text. You might associate it with based on your experience, based on your knowledge about other studies. You might connect with some theories outside, right? You will be always kind of associating mentally as well. And intertextuality, sometimes some authors quote outside some others quotation, or like bringing some so for example, if someone or some writers writing about romantic novel, they might refer Shakespeare's works, right? So this kind of intertextuality, so we will be closely looking for always words, phrases, associations, relationships, intertextuality. This sort of doing again kind of mining, but mining just only happening in just one or two text, not the large amount of text, right? And interpret the significant meaning, and we develop argument based on our findings. So this is how we were doing research. We are still doing research in many scholars, like most of them are still doing the qualitative study. I'm trying to give here the difference between qualitative study or slash text mining. So is quantitative studies new to is it new to the English department? No, it's not just so new to our English department or in general humanities. Scholars have been using quantitative study from like since from like a 19th century. For example, to identify the styles of the writing or author attribution or gender association. So it's mostly happened in the linguistic or language related area of research, not so purely in literature. But that this argument, by Det Underwood actually doing the counter argument. He actually wrote this article, A Genealogy of Distant Reading. You might hear this distant reading more often whenever you Google about digital humanities. So distant reading is also like one of the methods of text mining by Franco Moratti. So distant, I'll explain more about distant reading in after like a few more slides. So Det Underwood actually argues in this paper saying that so quantitative study or like distant reading or text mining is something so not is something not so new to humanities, and for that he's giving an example of Raymond Williams, Janice Redway's research. So in the 19th century, they actually used some of the experimental method for literary research. It's actually the combination of literature and social science research. So to find out how many readers are interested in about the ending of romantic novels. So they did the field visit, collected the data, created a chart, right? So which means it's also some sort of reading distantly, not just closely, just not only selecting few novels and studying and finding coming with some answer. So this is one of the examples by Det Underwood to talk about the origin of text mining. Maybe he used only the method distant reading. Okay, so why text mining becomes a thing? As we know, the world is moving towards AI now. Earlier it was digital, now towards AI. So digitization, natural language processing, these are unavoidable. You can it's happening whether either you are agreeing with it or you don't. It's just happening in front of our eyes. So you cannot just, as a researcher of the society and culture, language, and literature, we cannot just ignore the fact of that we are turning into networked materials or digitized or digitalization materials. So we have to sometimes think about for example, if you're a fan fiction researcher or fan fiction student, you cannot just overlook some of the fan fictions that are published only on online, right? You have to include them. If you have to include them in your area of study, which means you should know some sort of technology about like how you can study those fan fictions, right? So this kind of one of the examples. And another reason, digital humanities disciplines like or department centers of digital humanities are also emerging all over the world, and India particularly. Western it is actually almost it's moving towards well established type of category, but we are still in India. It's emerging, and I think I'm sure this FDP also one of the reasons that you could see how it is emerging in India. So there are many FDPs, conferences, seminars are happening around the world. I'm sure I can also share the link later about the organization, Digital Humanities Organization in India. So I'm part of it. Many DH pioneers also part of the organization. It's called Dati. So Dati is working on Indian digital humanities and helping students and scholars by conducting conferences, by providing seminars, other workshop activities. We actually planning a few workshop activities very soon this year. I will share the link with Annie so you can all take a look, and if you are interested, you can join the organization. So you will get to know a lot about what exactly DH is happening in India. Um, Other reason why it is so growing, not only just academia, but non-academia research. For example, data marketing, data lab, data models. Like you could just visit your computer science department if it is close to you. Then you just, you could see that sometimes even like the lab itself, they called data or some data mining or data analytics, right? So something study text and images, maybe they would not look at the text and images how we look at them. Their focus could be something different. Their focus is something like about how can tune find, how can and then create a tool that could identify the images or the the elements on the images. So they work on like different kind of focus compared to ours. But anyway, you cannot say that that does not contribute anything to humanities, right? So these are one of the reasons why text mining becomes a thing. And there are scholars all over the world working on text mining. There are many scholars in the Western country. We still don't have many experts in India. I'm sure like young scholars from this forum, like from SRM or other colleges, universities around India. Soon we are going to have some experts in text mining. So usually these scholars are like working on using Western materials, and according to them, like it's like they're giving different sorts of defined definition for text mining. So for one of the definition is suggestive pattern to identify as like some pattern. And then Jokers and Underwood also define it as text mining seeks to frame questions that contribute meaningfully to existing traditions of humanities inquiry, ask new questions. It is not about replacing the way we were doing the research. It's about like supporting, it's kind of supplementing, helping the the traditional way of doing research. It's not replacing the traditional research. How do text mining, like what are the ways of doing text mining? One is something like plot and themes. You can study, let's say, post Indian and Indian English novels. Then you can narrow down to non-canonical authors, or like the translated versions from any other Indian languages into English. Then you can also narrow down to even like focus on adventure novels, or like rural based novels. You curate them, you can study the plot. For example, after 1947, what kind of themes emerged in the rural the novels that focus on rural narrative, right? You can do this kind of, you can ask these kind of questions. And then character analysis, gender analysis, relationship between primary and secondary characters. Like you can do a lot in Indian drama as well, Indian plays as well. And events, you can extract particular events. Let's say what are the impact of 1947 partition narrative in novels published after 1947 in India. So you can collect all the novels that one or another way that the narrative includes 1947 partition narrative, or like any other major event or even small event occurred in any parts of the India. So you can do text mining by looking at the impact of the events, or what kind of changes in terms of the narrative, right? You can also extract places. So when we talk about places, there must be some challenges. For example, some novels might use imaginary places. So you can even create a map for imaginary places. That would be really interesting. And periodical related novels. So like mostly the why I mentioned novels, because I worked on novels, but my students are working in plays, poetry and other stuff. So you can that's because I'm familiar with the novels. It's just unconsciously I use novels as an example. Okay, so what exactly? So the first thing we looked at what kind of information we can extract. So when we move towards the more about text mining, you cannot avoid using the word data. So, but then what is exactly data? How we can understand data? So data is nothing but in the traditional way, like in traditional humanities research, we don't use the term data. So we use like text, paintings, images, maps. Those are like archival materials, videos. These are our objects of study. But when we convert them into like digital humanities research, at one or another, we will use the term data. So data is nothing but again digital text, digital paintings, digital images, videos which can be traced, and do some work on that using digital technologies. If we can use let's say digital the paintings that are digitized, then you can use some software to study those paintings, which means it is data. So data is nothing but if you can trace by using some digital tools and technologies, if you can trace or slash study by using digital tools and technologies, which is data. And mostly these terms, data, projects, collaboration, These are not inherent to humanities or social science to a certain extent, right? So these are the terms we borrowed from science. So that's where like Ursula Baulinger actually talks a lot about how we borrowed terms from computer science department. And many scholars define data. I'm going to skip this. It's just different way of looking at the data. We can come up with based on all the scholars like Christopher Bergman, Ursula Bavlika, Christoph Skoff, Trevor Owens. These are the scholars are like who continuously work in digital humanities. Like Ursula is focused on digital humanities itself as a study, how digital humanities emerged and how it actually moving forward. And Christoph Hoffman also like similar is focus on similar research. Christoph is working on plays, German plays, and Trevor Owens also like I don't much know much about Trevor, but these are the scholars who defined data. And so overall, coming to the conclusion, what exactly data? Data can be referred to a captured, observed, curated, machine readable, writable, manipulatable object or material that necessitates action analysis. So text can be as a data, so that it can be manipulatable, multiplyable, countable, all sorts of action words you can use. And the next part is something more important when it comes to text mining, the collection of text. So I mentioned even the first is few slides. Text mining can be used to count words and or phrases in a single, either in a single or a huge collection of text files. So in this case, you can apply you can definitely apply to study just one text, but based on your research question. You cannot just ask traditional research question and let's say one character analysis, the male characters then in the narrative, then you just take one text and then you want to use text mining. It won't work in that way unless you have some specific research question. Let's say you want to understand the interaction between different characters in just one drama, then you can use text mining, right? So but mostly it's the text mining is well known for the like the people, scholars mostly use huge amount of text materials. Doesn't mean that you cannot apply to single material. That's what I'm trying to say. So when comes to curating a huge number of text files, what are the things you have to take care of it, right? So as a print text into a digital format. What are the challenges? For example, let's take an old text material that are converted into digital. So for example, you could see the broken words, right? For example, ignorant. Ignorant got split into two type of words. That's because of the limitation in terms of the print, right? So when you're doing a qualitative study, it would not really a problem for you. You can just as a human you can understand ignorant got splitted into two. But machine cannot understand. Machine is not a man. Machine is not a human being. So machine needs always structured data. So here, this is one of the challenges for researchers, but these are the challenges can be overcome by applying optical character recognition. These are the tools people use to extract words from the text file, image files or PDF files which are digitized but not converted into machine readable format. Machine cannot understand what is written on the text file. So to convert into machine readable, scholars use optical character recognition. So this is the tool. Even it's now like available for to certain extent for some Indian languages. So at IIT Delhi, they developed optical character recognition for 14 Indian languages. So it is free to use. So if you are working on Tamil text, Bengali text, Malayali text, Malayalam text, sorry, you can just it is the link the tool is open access. I haven't used fully. I started using now for our students Bengali novel, so you can also explore that. And what are the other norms and justification we have to take care when we curate the corpus? So when we curate the corpus, like we should ask many questions when we curate the corpus. For example, if you are studying novels published after 2000. So you might have some justification why you want to study novels published after 2000, right? Maybe it's because of the technological development and city expansion, a lot of IT boom happened in India. So you might have some justification, right? So that is also very important. And at the same time, when you select the corpus, as I just mentioned, the IT boom or other technological or post liberalization impact, when I curate the novels like the corpus, I should be aware of the periods even that happened at the time, so it will be helpful, like for my interpretation. Otherwise, you it is still traditional way of doing research, but we will just take the help of technology. Doesn't mean that you can just, if you know software or Python or any other qualitative quantitative software, doesn't mean that you should not read theory, doesn't mean that you should not study other critical scholar publications, right? You should still read them. That would be helpful for your interpretation. And the novels published, when you curate the novels, you should be mindful of how you might be definitely not including every novels published in a certain period, let's say post 2000 to 2000 till to 2025. So which means I cannot include every novel published post 2000. I can include if I have money, if I have fun, if I have people to work on it. I can still include all the novels published post 2000. But let's say I'm a PhD researcher or MPhil researcher, even MA student. So then your dissertation is also going to be in, like, going to be a short, like limited. So in this case, you cannot include all the works published post 2000. So which means you have to come with some justification. Maybe 10 random sampling, that term you might phrase you might come across in your research methodology. So random sampling, maybe you just randomly select five novels for 5 years, every 5 years. So you should give some justification why you are selecting particular novels. And then sometimes you might unconsciously study canonical works. This is something problematic one I come across often here in Indian context. So most of the our curriculum is still are very much canonical oriented. So the students, even our master students, like unconsciously tend to select always canonical writers, Dalman Rushdie, Anita Desai. Like even if I have master students, like I'm guiding master students as well for their dissertation. So if I ask them to come up with some research questions for the corpus, they used to come up with, okay, I'm going to work on Anita Desai, R.K. Narayan, and Amita Ghosh. That's because then when I ask them, like, do you think those are the works only available? And then they would say those are the work only they are familiar with. So which means there's a fundamental problem in our curriculum itself. So that's the reason we should not make any again bias in our research. So we try to include more inclusive kind of novels. It can cover both canonical and non-canonical. And then if your research question needs some sort of settings, then you can also think of whether the novels you are curating, like urban based or rural based, semi-urban based. So settings also can play a major role. And finally, where you are collecting, how you are collecting, whether copyrighted, non-copyrighted, privacy, ethical concern, that you should take care of. You cannot just buy novels of Northeast Indian women writers, and then you cannot just put it on. Let's say you have a website, you cannot just put it on there because those are copyrighted works. You cannot, when you are studying them, or like the interpretation you will be doing, you cannot just put the entire text or a huge number of parts of text from the files on website or online. So these are things you have to take care. But when you are creating, file format is also matter. For example, if you are creating as a PDF and the text, XML, HTML, there are multiple ways of the file formats. So mostly we are aware of a PDF, Word document, maybe text, maybe HTML, right? So when you're curating, let's say you curated, some of them are in PDF, some of them are HTML. So you cannot, by using Python or any software, you cannot study all different sorts of file formats by using a software or Python. Some software allows, but not every software. So, and PDFs are sometimes not can be like machine readable. So you should be aware of file format complex issues. So let's look at what are the advantages. Obviously, efficiently you can extract information. The scalability something also like achievable. You can study huge collection of novels, plays, poetry, or even like philosophical text prose. The scalability is something like big advantage of text mining, and you can also look at the trend and pattern which you could not do in qualitative study. I actually looked at the pattern of how technological devices impacted the narrative in the post-independence Indian English novels. So I found out that pattern and trend of gender disparity. Mostly like even like I studied only like limited novels, but even that random sampled limited novels showed me that it's like even for computer the when that device related to computer, I could not find many female characters associated with most of the female characters and even male characters associated with the television. But it always about what kind of television programs that are associated with the female characters. For example, serials and cooking shows. These beauty tips, like is very stereotypical representation. That's all because it actually represents our society. But when it comes to man, it's always about like watching news or sports, business, education, this kind of stereotypical representation in the narrative. So yeah, even telephone, like so that's the pattern. I looked at how the pattern emerged from after 1947 to till 2017. And text mining can be also interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, because I also worked with the historians and cultural historians or like colonial historians, at the same time environmentalist. So this can be even more multidisciplinary, and it can be both academic, non-academic. You can study not only the past or contemporary, the real-time data analysis. Even for the fan fiction, it can be one of the examples for real-time data analysis. So you keep curating the fan fictions that are keep publishing on certain platforms. So you can curate them and study them. Okay. It also has a lot of disadvantages or maybe limitations. So, for example, this ambiguity. Like when we use machine to read the text, for example, I am asking to extract the term bank wherever the bank appeared. I ask them to extract the bank and do some frequent analysis. How many times bank appeared? Maybe when I ask the machine to extract the term bank, I might have in my mind it's Bank of River Bank, or like maybe bank, the institute, financial organization. So, but machine could not differentiate that very simple frequent analysis when you use it. It just curate all the bank. But the narrative can focus on bank of clouds, a metaphorical one, or bank of river, bank of financial institution. So these are some of the ambiguity. But this something like when I prepared in 2022, 23, 22 mostly, but I think it happened not happen after 2022. Now generative AI models, they can differentiate. You can still use like a lot of generative AI models to do text mining. Those models you can ask them to differentiate if it is not like let's say I want to extract bank of institution, like a financial institution related term. So I can tell generative models, okay, if you see bank is associated with the river, if you see bank as a mentioned as a metaphorical way, you can overlook. Right. Also, if, like that, sometimes generative models also make mistakes. We are aware of it. Even ChatGPT, they claim that ChatGPT makes mistakes. So we like let's say, but if we can use advanced programming techniques, those techniques now can differentiate between the difference between bank of river and bank of institution. But the problem, the challenge is not everyone is well can be an expert in Python or advanced libraries that can be used in Python. So that is also limitation when it comes to our Indian context. And then biases and negligence, like historical, cultural, literary references. For example, mm, if you're if you are studying historical materials that talk about land acquisition, uh, so you should be aware of the bias, because lot of land we call Paramboku. The word Paramboku, maybe if you're most of them are from south, then you might able to understand the word Paramboku, which means the meaning of Paramboku is something different before the colonial era. But after the colonial era, the meaning of Paramboku got changed. Like it became like wasteland. At the same time, it's owned by government. So after the colonial, so there are a lot of changes happened. So one should be aware of this kind of changes. At the same time, if you don't aware, then you just apply some, machine and tool and extract land acquisition and just interpret without understanding the context and the semantic changes in the diachronic way. And at the same time, I can also give you a few more examples. For example, if you are studying a sentiment analysis, the data you curated from, let's say, some social media, then the English, if let's say you are studying only the English, so English also has different versions. So we call it Indian English, American English, British English. So if you are like most of the data models not for, maybe some are available now, but not really, the data models are trained for Indian context. So if you are using, if you don't know about, fully aware of this lack of trained data set model problems, let's say you collected data from, let's say, maybe Instagram or Reddit platform about Indian mental health, and you want to study sentiment analysis of that. And then you just, if you are using Western trained sentiment analysis tool, it might not understand some of the Indian English words. So these are some of the biases and negligence. And also the next one is counting doesn't, like, I started with the counting is a text mining, doesn't mean that counting is always good, right? So this example, I think it will take you to another website. It's about Sayan Bhattacharya, who wrote an article about the problem in the big data models. This is, he mainly talks about the big libraries, that, like, for Haiti library is one of the big digital library in the world. It actually contains millions of text. So you can also search words and create some patterns, some create visuals on their website itself, which means they cannot display all the words that, let's say you are looking for some Sanskrit word. It's the data, the library might contain a lot of text from all over the world, mainly Western. But you, Sanskrit words also, some scholars might use Sanskrit words in their text, but it might not be appear in a huge number. So when you ask the, online application that are on the Haiti library, so you're asking to extract, count the words of Sanskrit word, and then you ask to create a visualization. So they have limitation in terms of how many times one word can appear in the database. Let's say if it appears more than 100 times, then it will display. If it goes below 100, it will not display, which means every words needs to be occurred number of times in order to get into the frequent list. So this they did in order to, for the optimization, because the machine would crash if it extracts, like if it looks for one word around the millions of words. So the machine would crash. Those, they set some threshold. So if it appears more than 100, it can extract. So this is very loophole. This is the loophole in the big data model. So that's how he points out. So this is also something then associated with text mining. So counting is not always good. And yes, I already gave the explanation for lack of temporal analysis, semantic about the Paramboku incident. We can move on. Reading, macro analysis, reading machines, there are few more ongoing methods. So distant reading is something well-known method when it comes to text mining. So distant reading is proposed by Franco Moratti. and which actually he proposed to study the great unread mass, right, in order to see the macro revolution as a literary text. And macro analysis is proposed. These are methodologies, like, but you can use it for any sorts of text mining process. They propose this methodology. What are the, like, features associated with this methodology is something matter. So macro analysis proposed by Matthew Jokers, and for him this is something like the systematic examination of data on the quantifiable methodology. And like, if algorithm criticism is focusing on information, but all these methods one or another sentences. So it's all about mining the text, but the focus is different. For example, I proposed in my research quantitative stepwise analysis. This is inspired by the existing methods of Joker's board and Wyvin Aid. So I proposed this. This is because all the other methods are used to study primarily the entire text. But what about certain, I want to study only certain elements in the text. For example, in my research, I focused on extracting the narrative about the technological devices, which doesn't mean that radio or telephone or television or computer can be part of the main narrative of all the text. It's not possible. So which means I have to curate the corpus, also look for specifically wherever these devices appeared, and then I have to extract the narrative of those devices. So for that, I need a specific method. That's where I proposed this quantitative stepwise analysis. And in this, like, I proposed four sorts of stages: collecting text and then isolating the data from the text. I used for this keywords in the context method. I will explain in a bit. So keywords in the context, in the sense like wherever let's say television appeared, so I extracted television related sentences from the text. So that's where we isolate the desired data. And I also applied then topic modeling and created visualizations. So I proposed these kind of four stages in the method. And like, in also I proposed how one can build the corpus, extract the data, and apply one or more tools. And finally, visualization is very important for the interpretation, not only just for the researchers interpretation, it is important for the audience. So visualization always speaks lot. So anyone can, just by looking at the visualization, can make up something, right? So instead of just giving the entire code or software screenshot those things. So what are the types of text mining? So topic modeling is well known. If you know a bit about digital humanities, you might come across topic modeling often. So topic modeling is a well known method, and very simple frequent word analysis, cluster analysis, sentiment analysis, keywords in context. I just explained. You can extract if you are looking for a particular keyword. Let's say I know a researcher who worked on the term naked, naked, wherever the naked word appeared. So you can extract the narrative of that word, which means the meaning might change how the writer start and then how the writer ends. So name identity recognition is something like extracting, place names, persons names, organization names. It has some features. You can, if you're more interested, extracting places, persons, organization, events, dates. It can extract any sorts of related to names. So you can use that. Text classification, it's also theme based, word embedding. There are many, so I cannot explain everything in just in this lecture, but if you are interested, you can explore, go and check on them. So pre-processing is something very important when you start text mining. So you curated the files, you are now ready for the research, but you should be aware of some of the futures. For example, you cannot study all the words in the text, right? For example, one was these kind of words, they might repeat often, so but they might not add value to your research question, so you need to ignore them. So this is called stop words. And next is lexicon normalization, which is about, for example, likes, liking. At some point it means like, right? So you have to use stemming here, like that actually cut all the suffixes cases. So, like lemmatization is something converting the word into root form. For example, am, is, or might mention number of times. It can be converted into some just be. But at the same time, you should be aware of the limitation of this lexical normalization. For example, flying can be, if you're simply using stemming, flying can be converted into FLI, so which would not make much sense. And then particular lemmatization, women is like if you cannot always find the root word of every word because the meaning would change. Because women is something mentioned in the narrative, talks about the collective. But if you are applying lemmatization, it will convert all the women into woman. So then the meaning would change. So these are some of the challenges. So you can decide, it doesn't mean that you have to use lexicon normalization every time. You can decide whether you want to use or you don't want to use. It's based on your research question. At the same other challenges, for example, running headings on the top of the text. So you should remove them, and many sections inside the subheadings. Like I highlighted the part, we can focus only on there. So many sections inside subheadings, short headings, footnotes, references, cultural references. So you can decide whether you want them or you don't want them. And yes, I'll explain. Do I have more time? I don't know whether I'm cross doing overtime. You can stop me, Annie. You can stop me if I'm crossing the time limitation. So I'll explain a few models and show example for that. For example, we'll start with topic modeling. So topic modeling is it's called unsupervised modeling. Uh, I can answer if you are interested what exactly unsupervised during the question and answer. So it actually used to identify the hidden topics and themes within the collection of documents. There are many tools for that. Recently, LDA, Mallet are well-known tools for topic modeling. So for this, I'll show you this example. So this is a journal called for science, actually science. It's a journal related to gender studies. So they have been publishing articles since from 1975. And so what they did, they collected all the articles published in their journal till 2014. And then they applied topic modeling to see what kind of themes they have been publishing. Like how the transition of the themes from 1975 to 2014. This is very interesting project. So for like they categorized their visualization Asian, American, like India also there. If you click India, I think it will show all the colonial related, not about the contemporary, but also talks about caste and other topics, um, women's roles. Okay, but the one I want to show you how the topics changed over the period. So this is the visualization. You could see some of the topics, for example. Okay, so from 1975 to 2014. So this is the one. Let's look, you can explore, like you can pick one topic and explore yourself. For example, let's take this globalization. So look at the globalization. It started after 1990s, but it's very much like the up falls and down. And 2010, it's actually so much publications about, they published so much about globalization, and slightly falling down again after 2014. And then look at this historical terms. They have been publishing so much about historical terms in the beginning, but after 2000, they stopped, giving priority to historical terms, right? In labor, so labor also almost stopped after 1990s, right? So you can, and then LGBTQ also starts in between somewhere. Like I think see here this one red color. So it starts mostly after. Actually, here and there falls of falling and rising, but it's actually little bit again falling and rising. And then this one, politics of difference. It does not have any appearance in the beginning, but it starts from after 95 and then it picks up so much. So this is what examples, interesting examples, how topic modeling can be very much useful. You can trace the topics that published over the period. And also you can look at the prominent topics, like you can do a lot more. It has a the pipeline. There's a lot of like process, but actually I quickly introduce. So the fear has, it actually not only gives the just the keyword, it gives the context. That's the beauty of this project. This is from Yale. And so like, for example, fear, actually they did the topic modeling only on the action verb. For example, fear, cry, or any other related to negative emotion. They curated testimonies. They applied some linguistic pattern to extract only the negative emotion. Then they applied topic modeling on those negative emotion words. That's why I said that a lot of futures involved in the pipeline. So fear for father, not fearing death. Okay, I'm running out of time. I'm going to maybe quickly. You can see this one, I guess. Okay, the next one is my project. I have already explained. This is one of the projects I worked with my colleague, and she looked at the oral aesthetics terms, and at the same time political and violence phrases and terms appeared in Northeast Indian women writings. And yes, keywords in analysis, as I have explained, you can select any keywords and you can look at the context of those keywords. And this is another interesting one for if you are interested in cultural history. So this article studied about the advertisement of Coca-Cola, how the brought the American kind of narrative into Dutch. They used simple words organization, at the same time word embedding. Yes, sorry, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip few slides. So there are tools, open access, they are available. For example, if you are a beginner, you want to study, understand about text mining, you can start with Viant. Viant, as you know, it's like one of the important online applications when it comes to text mining. It works for both beginner, even advanced level. Now they actually continuously updating and doing adding lot of features. Jeffrey Rockwell is running this, and he was here in my institute last year. And they also now very much interested in bringing Indian languages. So like I think we have now Hindi, someone did for Tamil, and my students did for Gujarati, but it's like they're interested very much in including Indian languages. You can go and explore. Ankang is very simple, basic software. You don't need to even install. You can just download. You can directly upload the plain text or PDF files if the PDF files text can be read, and then you can sort the text. Like it's easy to understand. The tutorial is also available. And topic modeling, usually one should use some of the Python earlier, but now you can use this JSLDA. It's very basic, simple topic modeling online application tool. You can, if you want to understand more about how topic modeling works, you can use that. And Recogito, TacTac is not working. Sorry, it's I don't know. It's a private company. I think it's not working now. Recogito is also European annotation one. They also have NLP process and also even mapping tools. It's very interesting online application. I think that's it. Thank you. I'm sorry. I think I took few minutes extra. I'm happy to answer your questions and doubts.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. Participants, if you have any queries, please post it in the comment box so that ma'am can read the questions and she can address your questions and queries as well. Please post the questions in the comment box. Ma'am, please make a note on the comment box so that they'll be posting the questions and you also can read out and answer those questions.
Okay, there is one question about, apart from copyright infringement, what are the ethical ramifications of text mining? For instance, if I want to convert a novel by a living author into a machine readable format, what are the ethical ramifications? Shouldn't get the written concept or other concern to do so. I don't think so. You need to get the permission of the India. It's 100 years of 100 or 60 years after the death of the author. Um, but doesn't mean that you cannot do any text mining of the contemporary works. As I mentioned, if you still 50 novels, most of the writers are from the contemporary. Most of the works are from contemporary. Even for my colleague, we did on the contemporary works. So you don't need to get the permission, but you should be careful. Like you should not put a chunk of, like let's say 3 pages from the text in your publication, in your dissertation, that is going to be online. Maybe if you're putting in Sotkanga your dissertation, or if you're writing a paper, you cannot put a huge chunk from the text. That's all. And you should not put the text. Let's say I bought most of the text from Amazon, Google Books, but I should not put it on any website in or my website or any other's website. The full text I should not put. Then they will take me to the court if I did. No, but otherwise, as a researcher, this is for non-profit research. So you can still go ahead and do research on contemporary works, text mining. You can collect huge number of text published by contemporary authors. You can still go ahead.